Now, recently I came across Freelee the Banana Girl, and she was made famous on YouTube originally for being able to eat 51 bananas in a day, apparently. I'm not quite sure what that says about her, to be honest, either way. But she's also famous for saying that apparently all meat eaters must die, amongst other things. But don't take my word for it. Let's hear what she's got to say.
And I was thinking about something in bed, which I think about quite often, and that's where the people who continue to eat meat and dairy, even though they know the impact of their diet choices on the planet, on the animals, they've watched Earthlings, they know all the facts, they've been educated, but they choose to continue eating animal products, whether they actually deserve to continue living.
So, there we have a supposedly empathetic animal lover saying that meat eaters, who obviously contradict her worldview, deserve to die. I've never heard of Earthlings. If one of you guys wants to point me in the right direction in the comments, I'm sure I'll check them out. But yeah, she's kind of representing what we're seeing more and more of in recent years about the whole social justice mentality. Because, of course, when you're talking about, whether it's talking about veganism and antis and hunsabs and those kinds of people, or you're talking about feminism or Black Lives Matter or people with sort of extreme views from the LGBTQ movement, it's all one of the same, isn't it? It's a kind of professional victimhood and the idea that if you don't agree with them, rather than just having a different worldview, an equally valid worldview, you're actually evil and deserve to be punished and shamed for it. It's getting very tiresome, but this is the way the world is now, I guess. But no, but maybe she's just saying this for effect, obviously views on YouTube, etc. So let's hear what else she's got to say.
And am I being too extreme? And yes, it does include family members of mine who actually continue eating meat and dairy, and I love them very much. But we are in this situation where drastic change needs to happen and people aren't taking it fucking serious enough.
So no, apparently it does include her own family members as well. She'd have her family members killed because they eat meat. So I don't know really what to say to that, to be honest. I guess she would have got on well in Nazi Germany. I believe that Adolf Hitler was... I know this is Godwin's law or whatever, that I'm bringing Nazism into it. But I do believe that Hitler was a vegetarian. I think she possibly would have got on with him rather well. Anyway, she's done a few other quite unusual videos. So let's look at the next one.
A lot of people are like, what do you feed your dogs? And... I've only had dogs for a couple of months now, and I'm feeding them vegan, and I'm very happy with the way things are going. So, I should address, why, a lot of people think it's cruel, and until I learned more about it, I thought it was actually cruel too.
That's because it is cruel, you crazy woman. What's the matter with you? She seems to have this... I've said it already, but she seems to have this idea of just wanting to force herself, her views onto everything, even her own poor dogs. Look, okay, sure, dogs are omnivorous. They're omnivorous the same way we are. And they can survive on a vegan diet, just like we can survive on a vegan diet. But like with human beings, unless you're extremely disciplined, you're not going to get the nutrients that you need. And certainly for dogs, if you ask any vet, they'll tell you that, yeah, a dog will survive, but that's a bit like a dog in the wild that isn't getting the nutrients it needs because it can't get meat and it's just surviving. It's scraping a living together. It'll be alive, but it won't be flourishing, and it certainly won't be happy because dogs like meat. The only thing I would say is I'm glad she doesn't own a cat. Because with cats, there is an actual chemical, I think, called taurine that they need to get from their meat, and they actually can die if they don't get it. So, there is that at least. But my God, this woman's controlling. Which really kind of brings me on to the next video. I won't comment on it until you've watched it. But here we go.
So today's video is... Did I force my younger boyfriend to get a vasectomy? Okay, this is going around the internet quite a bit, that I forced Robin to get a vasectomy. I forced him. I took a scalpel to his scrotum and I said, cut you better cut this or we are not together at all. We cannot date. Okay? You better just do this. You better get this vasectomy. No, that didn't happen.
Her poor cucked boyfriend. Now, look, don't get me wrong, okay? I've dated a few old women in my time, and it's not unusual for them to suggest you getting a vasectomy, especially if you're in a long-term relationship. But given her track record of forcing her dogs to be vegan, and the fact that she thinks all meat eaters should die, I just don't buy that she didn't have some impact here on this poor guy's decision. Because let's face it, what bloke would honestly want somebody to take a scalpel to their genitals? I just don't know of it, really. I mean, maybe if you've had like 1 million kids already, but no. But anyway, he did a response. So, let's hear what he's got to say.
So, this was totally my own decision. In May, I wasn't even with Freelee whatsoever. I was in Chiang Mai, but I wasn't with Freelee. So this was my own decision. And it all started when I was about 10 years old.
Now, first off, I would suggest that somebody explains to this guy how to use a green screen, because I don't think he's quite got the knack of it yet. But I digress. I would have played more of this, but unfortunately, he doesn't seem to make an awful lot of sense. He does seem to be almost the personification of the quote-unquote himbo, as in, like a sort of trophy partner for this woman. Now, I don't want me to be bitchy, but it is kind of what it seems to be. And to allow yourself to be sort of cucked like that, you've got some older woman and you've not had children yet yourself, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. Do you really want to have a vasectomy? That's quite an extreme position, to be honest. And I really don't believe it was his idea, given her track record. But anyway, as I said, this whole mindset, this is obviously the extreme end, obviously. I mean, I know I've got a subscriber who's a vegan, who seems like a great guy. But at this extreme end of veganism, you've got exactly the same mentality that we've got with the far left generally in, not just this country, but in the world. Whether, as I said, it's you talking about feminism, whether you're talking about Black Lives Matter, whether you're talking about all this sort of, the idea that there's 1 million genders and all this stuff is exactly the same. It's these people who think that they think that they're victims, with vegans in the case, they think the animals are victims. And they think that they're so morally superior to everybody else that they have the right to force other people into their position. It's the height of narcissism, and it's quite disturbing. But anyway, that's it. I'm out.